You're good.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here. My name is Jonathan de la Torre, and I'd like to introduce you all to Mindful. So, Mindful is an organization whose mission and vision is to empower individuals towards becoming more credible and self-aware in their pursuit towards a meaningful life. So I say meaningful life because for a lot of us, we're stuck in this mentality that we're going to be in undergrad all our lives, which, mind you, there's a next step. There's always a next move. So Mindful just wants to facilitate you towards becoming credible for that next step, because mind you, the market is saturated, don't be confused. It's competitive and people are credible. And when I say credibility, I don't mean it simply. I mean it complex, consistent, human capital. You need to have a niche and you need to be prepared to fulfill it. Nonetheless, you need to be honest, accountable, and principled. All character traits which Mindful is going to prepare you for. So in order for you guys to understand this business proposition, I want to break it up into 3 steps. So we're all aspiring entrepreneurs. And mind you, none of it is embedded in laws. We don't know exactly what we're going to do. Nonetheless, we don't know if it's going to work. So I hypothesized, I made a theory. I said, okay, if I create an environment which is elusive, something that actually gets you comfortable, that detoxifies all the stress you've been accumulating, nonetheless, you get there and you feel productive, my bet, my theory, my assumption is that you're going to be at your highest and most optimal state, which, mind you, is exactly what we want at Mindful. Step 2, you're not a client. So mind you, there is no organization without personnel. And what I want people to understand, sure, logistically, there are numbers, there are people that are going to be in here, but you're not a client because you're personally invested. What we're doing here is actually building your credibility. We're building your rapport so you could go on to the next step. Because the thing is, there's a puzzle, there's a preliminary requirement for that which we want to do, whether it be med school, whether it be a graduate program, whatever your next step is, there is a puzzle, and what we want to do is maximize your productivity so that at the end of the day, that canvas suits wherever you're trying to get to, because we want productivity. And mind you, this is actually a personal example for me. So when I went to Tiki Tide, I actually had this experience where the environment was exactly what I needed for that day. I had clarity. It was almost all founding. I was inspired and I actually worked the way I wanted to work. So that's what we're trying to do. We're replicating an environment in which it's conducive towards being productive, hence building your resume. Nonetheless, step 3 is creating your team. So for growth, people ask me, okay, so what happens when it's too big? What happens when you alone can't control the organization? This is why we're actually going to start something where you're getting into the organization and you're actually creating a disciple. The reason for it is because you're trying to create your own growth. You're trying to show the market that you're valuable, and how can you be valuable if you don't know how to lead? Therefore, we're saying, okay, get into the organization and find someone you can lead, in itself producing something that's self-sustainable and growing. And in so, there's a cyclical repetition. So mind you, you have the initial 6, which start as a club, because Mindful is going to start as a club organization. And then it's going to transition into Mindful, the actual company. These 6 members pick up 1 member. I'm talking about 0.1% of the student body. You have 12 members. You repeat it, they find 1 person they want to lead. That's 24, 48, and it goes on. Now you must be asking, why would you do this? This seems good. Okay, what's the cost attributed to it? Okay, I'm going to grow. I'm going to fulfill my puzzle. I'm going to get to the point where I'm ready to tackle the next barrier, the next way in which I want to take on a different role, whether it be medical school, whatever it is. There's a cost. It's actually $240 a year or $20 a month. It's a subscription base, but mind you, in society you have the top 1%. You can't be top 1% and have no cost. There's always a cost attributed to growth. If you think $240 is a lot, mind you, we pay $200 a year for parking. You know, $240 for growth? I don't think so. And even if you're part of that group who thinks, okay, this is still too expensive, look, again, we actually have this final annual project for individuals who are in this organization. At the end of every year, we're going to host a project, whether it be a missionary trip, whether we take on an adventure of self-awareness where you could actually grow, which is going to be worth more than what you're paying for each year, because it's also a club, and clubs are subsidized. So now on to some logistics. The promotional materials, I have the business card over there. It's quite simple. It just has my name, it has some contact information, and once you have that business card, you don't even need to ask me, oh, where's the meeting going to be held? It has the business hours and office of operations. So market awareness, we have our website right there, so I created it so that if you do want to find us on social media, through Instagram, you can get onto the website and you have everything you need there. We're going to have testimonials, we're going to have videos explaining the entire process and how you could actually immerse yourself within it. Now the target market. This is again another hypothesis, because mind you, I don't know what's exactly going to happen. This is how it's actually going to benefit NSU. So we have this D10 project. And in the project, we're going to expand, or we're hoping to expand to 10 universities. And they're all going to be in Florida. The reason for that is, if you look at the past, the greatest universities are where? California, New York. Why not Florida? We have great universities too. So the reason for it is because the people that are in California are in New York. They're doing great things. So what happens if people in Mindful are also doing great things? We're increasing traction towards Florida schools, hence NSU is also part of it. So how can we manipulate the psychodemographic of which people are coming into our city, because they say, okay, the people in these schools are actually doing great things as well, increasing reputability. Now, mind you, if you guys think that the D10 is just a vision, it's actually already been put into practice. So right now we have in UCF, the future Mindful affiliate, Angel Machado. He's an amazing man, and an industrial engineer, and well, industrial engineering major. And he's doing great things as of the moment, and that's where the node of network begins. Because mind you, you're at NSU, and let's say you want opportunities in engineering. There it is. We have UCF. We have a whole program in UCF, which all it needs is 6 members to start the organization. 1 member additional per other member, and that's 12 people, easy. There's an undergrad population of 60,000 people. 12 is hard. Another school, we have FIU currently with Iyad Donan, one of the most charismatic people I've ever met. And he's a biology and business major, extending further the opportunities that we have actually locally. And the last school, which would make it 4, because we have Nova, UCF, and UF along with FIU. We have Andy, who's a psychology major, and he also wants to take up the crusade. And mind you, all of these individuals have already agreed to a $10 royalty per member. Therefore, that's where the income is being generated. So the competitive advantage, mind you, all of these philosophies are actually research-backed for self-development. I spent hours and hours trying to figure out how you could optimize yourself to become the best applicant you can for anything that's going on in work. Nonetheless, it's a holistic approach. Now, you're going to find this with my competitors. A lot of people will host things for MCAT prep, big test examinations, applying for other things. Sure, they do help you, but just on that one matter. This is an organization that's holistically going to tackle every single thing, every preliminary you need in order to get to the next step. Nonetheless, some trends and drivers. Right now in society, because there's so many things that are going on, life is being portrayed in a complex manner when it's actually quite simple, and this is where you have positive psychology. Nonetheless, people finding the urge to develop, and that's just a trend that's going to go along with Mindful. So the competitor analysis, which I was talking about, I found one example, which is Meta Insiders, and doing well, but they charge over $300 an hour, which, mind you, we charge $240 a year. An hour versus a year. You understand? That's a huge difference, and sure, these people are doctors, but we could do that. We could do it together. So, and another thing is on-campus resources, which, mind you, again, they tackle case by case, and you meet them what, once every month, once every 2 weeks. When you're actually here, and we're tackling every subject matter holistically. Now, the location and hours of operation. In an ideal world, I would actually like it if we had a position in DeSantis, where we had a room and we could actually furnish it to the exact way we wanted it. We could create the atmosphere we've been looking for. But mind you, there's already been places and standards set upon us where we actually operate in the shark cage. So as of now, we're at Mako Hall in the shark cage, and the hours of operation are from Monday 5 to 8 p.m. and Saturday, Sunday 8 to 11 in the morning. So the market analysis, the reason why I conducted this is because people did have initially a cause of concern for $20 a month, and mind you, there are people, over 40% of them are spending $20 a week on entertainment. Not necessities, not groceries, not essentials. Entertainment. And a lot of these people, I understand that mindful is going to be a niche that not everybody is going to be a part of. Why? Because not everyone wants to give the cost a stride. We don't all want to put in the work to get to that 1%. And that's what usually happens. So that's why I say 0.01%. 6 members, 12 members, but that's all we need. And the other question was, how confident do you feel in regards to an established rapport for a life beyond the college experience? The majority of people actually answer that they're not very confident at all. When this could actually change, all you need to do is analyze that what you want and go for it. So as far as the logistics, there's actually been a debate where people say, how is this going to be profitable? Which, mind you, we're already established. This organization hasn't even began, and it's already in 4 universities. If it were only NSU, let's say it was only NSU with 12 members, it'd be making $2,880 in a year. It's just a subscription base, and mind you, that's because we only have an initial investment of $250, which is on creating the atmosphere. Now, do that for 2 years, you get $5,760. But what happens if we have 10 universities? We already have 4, and it hasn't even started. At 10 universities, you're making $15,840 on subscriptions, which I already covered. It's not even that expensive. $20 a month, and you're telling me you want to be great, and that's too much for you. You're telling me you want to do everything you want to do in your academic career. You want to get to the next step. You want to live the life that you wanted, and you can't give $20 a month. I'm sure that select few 6 members converted into 12 members per university, giving $20 a month, $240 a year. They do that in 10 universities. In 2 years, you have $31,680 on subscriptions alone. I was also thinking creating apparel, so that's also a potential driver of income. If each individual averaged $50 a year on apparel with a 50% profit margin, in 2 years, that's an additional $6,000 of profit. And as far as the total funding request, if it were required to actually fund something, it'd be the initial investment, which is $250, but genuinely, I don't need that. I don't need it because it's so small, the cost is so small, and it's going to be attributed a long time where it's not necessary. Before I end this presentation, I actually want to tell you guys a fable my father used to tell me when I was little. So there are 2 types of individuals in this world as they approach the greatness they've always said they wanted to approach, with their ambitions, their dreams. And this one time there was this eagle. And the eagle soared above the mountain, and it was just thanking God. It said, "Thank you, God, for granting me the power, the magnificence, the ability to soar over this mountain above all living things." And right beneath it, it hears a worm. He looks at the worm, and the worm responds resentfully. He looks at the eagle in scorn and says, "I got here. Even though I had to devour, demolish anything that got in my way, I got here. Almost unethically, but I got it. I did it." So in life, you're going to choose between 2 people. Those people who get to their goals and their tasks, they get there, and it seems effortless, almost as if it were designed for them to get it. And then there's the individual who has to stop in every corner, who has to get challenged by every single thing. Mindful has been manifested so that there is no more worms, only eagles. Join Mindful. Thank you.